Hello, and welcome to this incredibly late winter book haul. I don't know why all my videos keep being late, but they do. So here's another late one for you. But this is my winter book haul, so these are all the books that I accumulated in the months of December, January, and February. And we're gonna start because there are a lot of books, as usual. If you've been here for these book hauls, you know I tend to have a lot of books. No surprise here, I've got 4 piles, so let's get started. The first books I'm going to start with are the books that I received as gifts. First one, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. I have never read a single thing by Maya Angelou, but I've always been curious about her. And so I was so happy that one of my coworkers gifted this to me, and he even wrote a little bit in it as like a little, I don't know if you can see it because of the lighting, but he wrote a little letter, inscription, whatever you want to call it. So this is essentially, I think, just like an autobiography of Maya Angelou, and I'm excited. Next were presents from Santa, aka my dad and my stepmom, but they like to put it as Santa on the presents. But that is Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant and The Little Paris Bookshop by Nina George. Into the Drowning Deep, I've been super excited to read this, and I'm hoping to get to this in like October or maybe September. But this is a adult horror that involves sirens. That's all I really need to know. You're gonna hear me say that. With a lot of these books, it's like I don't need to know a lot to pick them up. And then The Little Paris Bookshop. Again, I don't know much about this. I just know it looks like it is super cute. Cute contemporary that takes place in Paris. I also just realized I feel like the sun is so bright today that it is whiting me out and you can't actually see the book. Hold on a sec. Okay, I don't know how to get rid of this. That's just gonna have to stay there. But anyway, The Little Paris Bookshop takes place in Paris. Probably involves a bookshop somewhere. So yeah, this just seems like super cute. And the last book that I got for free was not a gift. It was through a Goodreads giveaway. I won. And so I ended up getting Mr. Dickens and His Carol by Samantha Silva. I ended up not receiving this until like beginning of January. So by then it just felt weird to read a Christmas book. So I ended up not. This lighting is really bugging me. Okay. That changed a little bit. It's still here. Sorry. It's gonna bug me like it's probably gonna bug you. I believe this is a historical fiction about Charles Dickens and how he came to write A Christmas Carol. But I'm probably gonna have to wait until like December, maybe end of November to read this so I can get in the Christmas spirit. Now I'm gonna go on to some Shakespeare plays that I got. I just, on a whim, while I was at the bookstore one day in January, decided that I wanted to read all of Shakespeare's works. So how I'm going about doing that is trying to read at least one Shakespeare play a month, and then hopefully by like the end of next year, I will have read all of them. But I bought 4 in this winter time. 3 of them I have already read, but I bought... Well, yeah, okay. I'm just gonna put them in front of my face for now. About As You Like It, Much Ado About Nothing, A Midsummer Night's Dream, and Twelfth Night. As You Like It was in my January wrap-up. Much Ado About Nothing was in my February wrap-up. A Midsummer Night's Dream is going to be in my March wrap-up, and it's also my favorite so far of his. Really love this one. And then I'm about to read Twelfth Night in April. So there you have it. Those are the Shakespeare works that I have accumulated in the winter months. And now we're going to go on to Book of the Month. I am subscribed to the Book of the Month subscription box where they send you a book every month, sometimes more than one book, but this time I only did 1 book a month. For December I got oh god, this lighting is seriously killing me. I got No Exit by Taylor Adams for December. I have not read this. I tried to get to it in December and I just didn't. I don't know why, but December I wasn't really in much of a reading mood, so I didn't get to a lot of books. This was one of them. Hopefully I'll get to this soon because I do want to read this. This is a thriller that takes place in Colorado at like a highway rest stop, and it takes place over a course of like 13 hours. That's really all I know. Then for January I got The Night Tiger by Yangsze Choo. I did read this. It's in my February wrap up. I really enjoyed this, and to be honest, any description of this book I give is not going to do this book justice because it's so good. But it takes place in the 1930s in Malaysia. Maybe that's a little bit better. I'm trying here. We follow like two different perspectives, two different people, and at first they like don't really connect, but throughout the book you see how they connect and how their lives intertwine. It's a truly great, phenomenal story, just told so beautifully, and I really enjoyed it and I highly recommend. And then the February book of the month book that I got, which I am currently reading, didn't quite get to it in February, but I'm reading it now. That is On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. This was a highly anticipated book for me. I loved Angie Thomas's The Hate U Give. It was one of my favorite books of all time, but also one of my favorite books of 2017, which is when I read it. So when I heard she was coming out with a new book, I was waiting for it. And it's here. I can't believe it's still taking me this long to even get to it. But it's about a girl named Bree who lives in Garden Heights, which is where The Hate U Give has taken place. So they do have a few little references here and there to The Hate U Give. But we follow Bree, who wants to be an aspiring rapper. And I think like something goes wrong and she becomes popular and famous in the rap world for the wrong reasons or something like that. Anyway, very excited. I'm only like 60 pages in, so not a whole... I can't really give my thoughts on it just yet, but I mean, it's Angie Thomas, so I'm assuming I'm going to love it. So my next stack of books are books that I purchased in winter, but they did not come out in winter. The first of those books is The Thief Lord by Cornelia Funke. This was recommended to me by a friend, and then I read it, and I was pleasantly surprised. I did not think I was going to enjoy this book, but it's really different, and the writing style is something like I've never read before. I have read this, obviously. It is in my February wrap-up, so if you would like to go hear more thoughts on this, check out my February wrap-up. But this is a children's book that takes place in Venice, Italy, and it's about these two boys that run away, and they meet like a group of kids that also are living on the streets. But it's a very like fantastical, magical type story, and I highly recommend it. Another book I got is another one that I have read, and it will be in my March wrap-up, but that is What is the Bible by Rob Bell. How an ancient library of poems, letters, and stories can transform the way you think and feel about everything. Yes, this is a Christian nonfiction book. It's about the Bible. I have to say I was truly surprised by this book. I did not think I was going to love it. But it was really great. This is another one I picked up at the bookstore just like on a whim, just like out of nowhere, just randomly decided to pick it up, and I'm glad I did. I did very much enjoy it. You will see more about this in my March wrap-up coming up. Another book I got is Nevermore: The Trials of Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend. I've heard so many great things about this book. This is the first book in a children's like fantasy series. All I really know about it is that it's about this girl. She is apparently cursed, and then she gets taken away to this like island or like this other world. Okay, it's like city called Nevermore. I feel like it's got a lot of magic in it. It takes place in a boarding school, which I love books and stories that take place in a boarding school. But I've heard wonderful, incredible things, and I really want to get into this series. Next, I got A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. I have not watched the TV show. I don't know why. No, I know why. It's because I don't have HBO, so I don't really have any ways of watching it. But I do want to watch it, and I also do want to read the book, because it just sounds like something I would like. First of all, it's an adult fantasy. Everyone raves about it. I don't think I really need to say what it's about, because I feel like everybody knows, but just in case anyone's been living under a rock and doesn't know what it's about these two families that are pining for the throne, and they have to go through a bunch of games to get to the throne. Hence the title of Game of Thrones. The books are quite large, but I don't expect anything less of an adult fantasy. But I am excited to get to that. Next are two Christmas cheesy romance books. I was in a mood. So we have Christmas Wishes and Mistletoe Kisses by Jenny Hale, and then I also got Christmas Joy by Nancy Nagel. I don't know anything about this one. I was just very much in a cheesy romance Christmas mood. I also have not read it. Again, I tried to get to this in December. Didn't quite get to it. Christmas Joy, however, I still did not get to this one. Yeah, I just didn't read a lot of books in December. But I do know what this is about. I watched the Hallmark movie, because Hallmark, you know, they come out with a lot of pretty great romance, cheesy Christmas movies. And this is one of them, but this is one that I really enjoyed. So when I saw it was also a book, I had to get it. I don't think I need to give you the premise of the plot. They're all the same, but I love them. Next, we have Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. This is the first in a young adult mystery series that I have heard so many wonderful things about. First of all, what grabs my attention is mystery. I enjoy a good mystery. Also, this takes place in a boarding school. I'm sold. And that's all I need to know to pick up a book. But I know the second book in this series has come out, but I want to read this before I get to that one. I'm trying this new thing where I just buy one book in the series and then I read it and see if I want to continue, instead of buying all the books in the series. Next is another first book in a series, and that is The Merchant of Death by DJ McHale. This is the first in the Pendragon series. A friend recommended the Pendragon series to me, so I was like, okay. So I got the first one in the series. Have not read it. We'll hopefully get to it. I believe this is like a 10-book series. It's a children's series. I don't know anything about it. I just know it's a fantasy. Are dragons involved somehow? Okay, so basically he has to save the world in an alternate dimension. Sounds like fun. Actually, it actually does sound fun. I don't know why I said that in like a very sarcastic way. Next is a book that I kind of don't want anymore. That is After by Anna Todd. This is an adult, steamy hot romance. I wanted to watch the movie, which is coming out in April, but I don't think I want to watch the movie anymore, so I don't need to read the book before I see the movie. Also, why is this book ginormous and so many pages? And this is also the first in a series as well, but I don't think I want this anymore, so I'll probably get rid of this one. Just thought I'd show you that I got it. The next is A Short History of the Girl Next Door. This is by Jared Reck, and a book, again, I don't know a whole lot about, but a lot of people have really been loving this book, and I do know we follow a guy who has a crush on a girl. It's his best friend, but she ends up falling for someone else, and he has to watch her fall in love with someone else, and then something happens that like ruins the friendship as well. So I don't know a whole lot. It just seems like it'd be a really important, beautiful story, also tragic, so I'm here for those books too. Next is another first book of a series, and that is Cruel Prince by Holly Black. This is a young adult fantasy about fae, aka fairies, which I do love. I just love fantasy in general, but books that involve fairies, especially fairies that are kind of evil and manipulative and very calculating and cunning. Love it. Here for it. I've heard a lot of great things, but I have also heard a couple of like meh things about it. So I kind of want to see what my thoughts are going to be on this book, but I have a feeling I'm going to enjoy it. And then the last book in this pile is The Wife Between Us by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. This came out last year, and I didn't really hear a whole lot about it until Books-A-Lala, one of my favorite booktubers, said she really liked this one, and I really trust her opinion when it comes to thrillers. All I know about this is it's an adult thriller about a wife, and then there's about an ex-wife, and then a new girl is coming into the picture of her husband's life and becoming the new her. something like that. I don't actually know, but I'm excited to find out. I moved us back over here. This doesn't seem to be as bothersome anymore. We'll see. Next stack that I have here are books that I got from Book Outlet, because guess who loves Book Outlet? Me. I love Book Outlet. Their prices are unbeatable. They're amazing. So I kind of went a little crazy and I bought a lot of books from Book Outlet. I think I got like 15 or 16 books. The first two that I got are by the same author, and that is Little Women and Little Men by Louisa May Alcott. I had no idea there was a Little Men, but I think we all know the story of Little Women. It's a classic about 4 sisters. But then there's also Little Men, which is the sequel to Little Women. It follows Jo March's sons. Very much here for that. So I actually really enjoy these covers too. I feel like they're so cute and adorable. Love it. The next books I got are part of a series. I know I was just saying I'm only buying first books of series, but I didn't do that in this case. I bought books 5 through 9 in the Series of Unfortunate Events series, which I do have the first 4 books. I showed those in another book haul. I got the next 5 in the series, and I really enjoy the Netflix covers. Book Outlet had them, so I got them. So we have the Austere Academy, which is the 5th book in the series. The number 6 is the Ersatz Elevator. Number 7 is the Vile Village. Number 8 is the Hostel Hospital. And then number 9 is the Carnivorous Carnival. I really loved this TV show. It was phenomenal. It's on Netflix. Please go watch it. I highly recommend. But that TV show is based off of this children's book series, so very excited. It's about Baudelaire orphan children and their journey to finding out some things about their parents that they didn't quite know, but also them trying to escape Count Olaf, who is after their money. Also, Count Olaf, played by Neil Patrick Harris, was phenomenal. Next book that I got is The 12 Days of Dash and Lily by Rachel Cohn and David Leviathan. This is a very much Christmas book as well. Although I just realized this is actually the sequel to Dash and Lily's Book of Dares, which I did not know when I purchased it. So now I'm like thinking I don't want it, because I saw a couple of reviews of Dash and Lily's Book of Dares and they weren't too great. So this might be another one of those books that I'm like, you know what, I know I just got it, but I don't think I want it anymore. So the next book that I got is The Arithmetist by Brandon Sanderson. Brandon Sanderson is one of my favorite authors. I absolutely love him. So this is the first in a young adult fantasy series, and he has yet to come out with more books in this series, so that makes me a little bit nervous, but I mean, what do you expect with an adult fantasy writer? They always take forever with their series. So this is one of his young adult series, and I'm very excited. I don't need to know much about it. Okay, wow, I actually don't know how to describe this book. I just read the back of it, and there's no way to describe it. But it's Brandon Sanderson, so I'm going to expect amazingness. The next book I got is Run Away With Me by Mila Gray. I read Come Back to Me by her last year, and I really quite enjoyed it. And so I have the second book in that series, and then this is the third, and I'm hoping to get to both the second and the third book this year. These are young adult steamy romances. I'm gonna call them steamy romances, but they're young adults, so they're PG-13 steamy romances. But I still very much enjoy them. Next, I got a bunch of books in a series. The entire Something Strange and Deadly trilogy by Susan Dennard. So we have Something Strange and Deadly, A Darkness Strange and Lovely, and Strange and Ever After. I don't know why I do this to myself, but I tend to just buy series that I don't know anything about. But the covers I enjoy, as well as it definitely seems like a fantasy world that involves assassins, which I am totally here for. So I got the whole series. Next, I got the last book in a trilogy, because I have the first 2 books. That is Witch's Pyre by Josephine Angelini. This series is recommended to me by an old coworker whose book recommendations I trust, and so she recommended this series. So I finally got the last book in the series. I don't know anything about it, I just know it's young adult fantasy. Next is a book that I have been wanting since it came out in 2017, and that is Speak Easy, Speak Love by Mikkel George. This is a young adult romance that takes place in the 1920s during Prohibition, and it takes place in a speakeasy, and it just sounds so cool. And then the last book I got is something very different from all the books you've seen, and it's also a book that I think I don't want anymore. That is Rasputin, Faith, Power, and the Twilight of the Romanovs by Douglas Smith. I have been fascinated by the Romanovs and mainly Rasputin, so I just wanted to learn more about Rasputin. I still do, but this book is a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. It's almost like 700 pages. No, it is 800 pages. So I'm still interested in learning about Rasputin and the Romanovs and that whole thing, but I don't know if this is quite the book that I want to do that with. I don't know. But just so you know, I got this hunker of a book about Rasputin. And then this last pile of books are books that are new releases. So first we have a book that I have read, and that is The Mermaid's Voice Returns in This One by Amanda Lovelace. This is the third and final book in the Women Are Some Kind of Magic poetry series. I really like this series of her poetry collections, and this is the last one, so of course I had to pick it up, and I did read it. It is going to be in my March wrap-up, so I don't want to give too much away, but I will say this is my least favorite in the series. Also, just a lot of trigger warnings before you go into this series. Don't even want to say them. They're written in the front of the book what the trigger warnings are, so just so you know. Next is One Day in December by Josie Silver. This came out in December. I believe it came out in December. Is this even a new release? I don't know. I thought it was. Yes, it is. Okay, this came out in December. And I meant to get to this one in December as well, but I didn't. I just know it's an adult contemporary romance. It does not take place one day in December. I think it takes place over like a couple of years, but these people meet one day in December. I just love this tagline: 2 people, 10 chances, 1 unforgettable love story. So, and I don't know, I've heard really great things about it too, so I'm excited to eventually get to this one. Next is The Accidental Further Adventures of the 100-Year-Old Man by Jonas Jonasson. This is the sequel to The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out the Window and Disappeared. Is that what it's called? But I do own that book. I just haven't read it yet. I just have this very strong feeling I'm going to love it. It's about like this old man who's obviously is 100 years old. He is in a retirement home, but he absolutely hates it. So he climbs out the window and just goes on this adventure, and it just sounds so fun, so whimsical, so adorable. And so I wanted to also pick up the second book so that way when I finish that one, and I love it, I can immediately just get on with the second one. Next, I don't think this came out in winter, but it did come out last year pretty recently, hence why I put it in this pile, but that is Contagion by Erin Bowman. I don't know a whole lot about this. When I read like the description in here, it didn't really tell me a lot, but this cover really intrigues me, and it's also a young adult sci-fi. It's the first in a series, so all those things intrigued me. Next that I picked up is one I have read, but I DNF'd it. I did not like it, and that is The Dead Queens Club by Hannah Kaplan. This came out, I want to say, in February. I was not a fan. I randomly picked this up on a whim in a bookstore. It tends to be my thing. I go to bookstores and I see a book and I'm like, huh, haven't heard about that one. But that looks good. The synopsis really like pulled me in and like super intrigued me, which is why I picked it up. But it's kind of like a modern teenager take on King Henry VIII and his many wives. I was not a fan of the writing style, and it was very, I don't know, I felt like we weren't getting to the meat of the story. We were just still skimming the surface, and I was getting like 200 pages in, and still the meat of the story has not happened. Next, I got To Keep a Secret by Karen M. McManus. I read her book, One of Us is Lying, last year. I enjoyed it, so I wanted to pick up her new one, which is this one. So I'll probably get to this in like October, because she writes thrillers. Obviously you can tell this is most likely a thriller. I don't know a whole lot about it. I just know that it's a young adult thriller by Karen M. McManus, so I'm gonna give it a shot. I've also heard some pretty good things about this. People are saying that they like this better than One of Us is Lying, so that's promising. Next, I got The Similars by Rebecca Hanover. First of all, this cover. I really enjoy this cover. Again, I don't know a whole lot about this one. I believe this is a first in a series, and it's a young adult sci-fi that follows clones going to school. So just the fact that like people's clones are going to school with them just kind of intrigues me. And apparently drama goes down. Next is The Disasters by M.K. England. Again, another cover I really love. Look at that. Ugh, it's a great cover. But this is also a young adult sci-fi. I believe this is a standalone. I don't know. Maybe it's the first in a series. This takes place at like a space academy, and we follow these 4 people that get kicked out of the academy, and so while they're on their way to leaving the academy, a terrorist attack happens at the academy, and now these 4 people are the only ones that can save it. Sounds very thrilling and action-packed, and like takes place in space. Very excited. 3 more books, we're almost done. But the next one I'm going to talk about is The Gilded Wolves by Roshni Chokshi. Can we just take a moment to appreciate this cover? Like, this is one of the most gorgeous covers I've ever seen, and the book Naked is gorgeous too. Look at that. This is the first in a young adult fantasy series that takes place in Paris during like the late 1800s. And that's all I know, actually. I thought I knew more, but I don't. But I'm still very excited about this. The next book I have to show you might just be my most anticipated book out of every book that is here. So what I'm most excited for, it's the one I want to get to the soonest, but that is Enchantée by Gita Chalice. First of all, this title, one of my favorite titles, I love to say it, Enchantée. This cover is probably my favorite cover of all time. So this takes place in Paris during the Revolution, and it's a young adult standalone fantasy. So there's a lot of magic that happens as well. So I am excited. Again, it's all I know about it, but it just sounds amazing. And then the last book that I want to talk about that I have here is King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo. I love Leigh Bardugo. She's one of my favorite authors. I have read her Six of Crows duology, but I have not read her Shadow and Bone series, which you do need to read before you read this book. So I'm hoping to do that ASAP, because love this book, although the sticker was difficult to get off and I still can't get it off, so unfortunately this is destroying the cover and it bugs me. But the book Naked, look at the book Naked, like that is stunning. But this is the first book in her newest duology that takes place in the Grishaverse that follows Nikolai. She writes great fantasy, and I'm excited. And that is it. Those are all the books that I got in the winter time. I feel like this actually might be less than usual. I feel like it is, which is good, because I need to stop buying so many books. I'm gonna work on that. But yeah, so I think it's a good thing that I'm not buying as many books as I usually do, but there are still a lot of books. And so I really hope you enjoyed this video. I do have my March reading wrap up coming up as well, so people look out for that. I will see you guys later with more videos. Bye!